Hey there. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to practice guitar chords with backing tracks. It's not only a lot of fun, and you'll get some extra practice time out of it, but it's a great way to practice your rhythm and your timing, which guitar players are notorious for actually not being too good at when they're learning. The biggest problem I've found with students trying to play along with backing tracks is they're not quite ready. If you're still having a hard time fingering the chord or getting from one to the other, playing along with the backing tracks will just make that even harder. I've created a step-by-step process that will help you get over this hurdle. Let's do this. The first step is to make sure you can finger the chords that you're using fairly quickly. I know that probably sounds pretty obvious, but you'd be surprised how many students, even me, have passed that step up. Now, when I say quickly, I mean kind of like that. If you're playing with a backing track, you have to get to the chord in time. So you want to be able to finger it before you have to play it with rhythm, at least within, something like that. I have students practice this way. I'll have them just put their hand down on their knee and then see how quickly they can get to the chord and finger it. 2 and count. Let's say start with count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's usually kind of how it goes. And then keep practicing it till you can get that down to just 1 or 2 counts. 1, 2. Start without strumming the chord and just practice getting your fingers in the right place. Then, when that seems to be going pretty well, start placing the fingers and then strumming it and see how they sound. Make little adjustments and then try it again. Do that a little each day. Don't try and get it all at one shot. Now next, practice changing between the chords that you're using. For example, if I'm using a G chord, going to a C chord, C add 9, I'll want to make sure that I can switch between these 2 chords in a reasonable amount of time without fumbling too much. So I'll practice just going from G to C. First off, just practicing going one chord to the other. Now if I'm using 3 chords like a D, I'll make sure I can go between those 3 chords. If I'm having a hard time going from D to G, well, I'll work on just those 2, going from D to G until I can kind of do that at least up to the tempo of the other chords. Now you're ready to practice the chords in tempo or with rhythm basically. But here's the key, practice slow. And if you're anything like me, you'll probably want to push it just past where you can actually change in time cleanly. Start slow. So you can do this by just kind of keeping a pulse, maybe with your foot or, I can kind of hear the pulse in my head. 1, 2, 3, change. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, did you see what I did? I left that 4th beat blank. In other words, I didn't strum on the 4th beat. That gave me some space to change, rather than filling up every beat with a strum. And do start with this basic down strum just to start. You're going to add a more fancy strum later. Then you can start doing it with a metronome. I've got this metronome set pretty low, I think about 40 beats per minute. Can you hear that? This is the tempo. 1, 2, 3. I'll leave the space. Give me time to change. 2, 3. I'm changing here. Space and strum. Now, once you can play reasonably well at a very slow tempo, start building up the speed little by little. And what you're after is you want to get to roughly the speed that you'll be using with the backing track. So let's say the backing track says it's 80 beats per minute. So let's say I've got the tempo here at 40. I'll start picking that up, maybe from 40 to 50, 50 to 60, and so on, up until I can play pretty much the same way at 80 beats per minute. Now I know I'm ready to tackle the backing track, which not only will be up at that speed, but it has other instruments and things to make it even more interesting. So now you've worked on the chords, you've worked on changing between the chords, you've added some tempo so you can change fairly well. When I say fairly well, up to around 80%. I usually use this as a standard. You don't have to get it perfect. And keep in mind that this is not something you sit down and do all at once. This might take days or even weeks, depending on the chords and where you're at. But in any case, at this point, if you've followed along, you're ready to play along with a backing track. Now, keep in mind, that doesn't mean it'll all of a sudden be easy. The backing track has a bunch of other stuff going on, and that usually can be kind of distracting. You have to get where each of the beats are in the backing track. It's not as clear as maybe a metronome. One trick you can use that I do actually when I'm learning a song is I'll just first tap my foot so I kind of get the beat before I even touch my guitar. Or you can tap your guitar or something like that. But it helps to kind of get a clear idea where the beat is before you start strumming away. Also, keep in mind that it's really helpful to just start with down strums. Don't try adding a strum right away. Get the beat with basic down strums, leaving that gap at the end. When you can do it really well with the gap at the end of each chord change, go ahead and maybe fill that in with a down strum as well. This means if you're changing chords like every 4 beats, you'll just play for 3 beats and then leave a space. But if you're changing chords maybe every 2 measures, 8 beats, play 7 times. That's 4 beats for the first measure, 3 for the second, and then leave that space. Another little known trick is that most software that plays these backing tracks, either in video or audio, has the ability to slow down the backing track a little bit without actually changing the pitch. When I was growing up, that wasn't possible, but I find that's pretty common nowadays. I'll actually show you a little bit of how I do that on my guitar lesson site. Here we have one of the backing tracks on my Real Guitar Success Academy membership. Now, when we start the backing track, it plays at normal tempo. And if that tempo seems a little fast,
ready, start.
You can go to this little icon here, which is like a gear, and slow it down. That's about 3/4 speed. And it still sounds okay. It actually keeps the proper pitch so you can play along with it with the same chords. You can go farther, you can go down half speed. Now as you go down, the sound starts degrading. It doesn't sound as pretty, but it's still very usable for practice. Stay there. So now if you've been following along, you're up and playing with the backing track. Maybe not perfectly, but you're able to at least keep up with the chord changes somewhat. You're doing good. Celebrate. Go buy an ice cream or something. You know, you've really come a long way, seriously. Now, if you want to take it up a notch, it's time to add a strum to that. Start easy. Go with a simple strum. And practice the strum before you go trying it with a backing track. It's a good time to mention that even though I put this in a nice, neat, systematical order, it doesn't really always work out that way. As a matter of fact, seldom works out that way. You probably have to go back and forth a few times at this point. Try the strum with a backing track. Maybe it goes okay, maybe not, but you need to go back, practice a little more. And, that's just the nature of the beast. And also, I don't want you to think that this is how you should practice all the time. You should spend a lot of time practicing without backing tracks and even without a metronome. You want to develop your internal sense of rhythm as well as being able to play with a metronome and with a band. Okay, enough talking for now. I'm going to show you a brief demonstration of how I would do this with a backing track. I'll be playing the chords G, D, and C. I call this C, it's C add 9 technically. Now, it's kind of fast, and instead of slowing down the track, I'm going to show you how to adapt to a fast track, even though I could slow this down. So watch, here's the simplest form. I'm just marking the chord changes. The tempo is really 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But I'm cutting that down to just 1 per measure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 2. Here we go. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. You got to get the tempo first. Now usually we're kind of just count the tempo and tap my foot to it at first to make sure I know where the beat is. Now I'm going to double that a little faster. So 1. Here we go. Now 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 4. Now I'll double that. 1, 2, 3. Leave it space. Change. 1, 2, 3. Change. 3, 4. Change. 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 Okay, it's that little strum. Tempo. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here we go. All out. 3, 4, 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, that's all I've got for right now. I hope this video helped you out. If it did, give me a thumbs up. I've put a link at the end of this video for the backing track that I use, so you can give it a try. Bye for now.